Welcome to Steam Powered PD. Today is Thursday, April 2nd. We are going to answer questions from the last couple days. We are going to work on digitizing non-digital work. So some of the questions I've been received are things around how do I digitize math work or anything that's non-digital that you're not creating initially with a computer. So we're going to look at a couple different options there, a couple different tools to do that, and hopefully make that streamlined for you. A reminder, if you haven't done so already, if you're in the district, go to rsu19.info. You can click that attendance tab. I will just throw a quick screen share here and show I've updated a little bit. Right here, let's see if that's working there. Okay, so that looks okay. So what I've done here is if you go to rsu19.info and you scroll down, we've got our doc here. Here's our links. So these are all the recordings from the last, couple days. We're on actually episode 12 now, which is great. Keep scrolling down here. This is your Tech PD sign in, and we are keeping track of that now. And then also questions and comments. And if you do want to go back to previous recordings from any of these ones before, just feel free to look at those. And I am working on basically a 1 week at a time topic coverage. So what that means is I will, let's say next Monday, hopefully Sunday, I will put on the topics for the entire week coming up, so you would know ahead of time. So if you need to check something out, or if you want to make sure you're there for a certain day, you're welcome to do that. You can also, of course, watch the recordings. You may notice I have 2 recordings I'm behind. I have the recordings. I just need to upload them. They're giving me a little bit of a trouble, but I will certainly get that up as soon as I can, as far as yesterday's recording and the day before, the slides and the drive recording. So we're working on that actually today. Hopefully we'll get that up sooner than that. Let me jump back here, start presenting. Excellent. All right, so what we're going to cover today, as far as our topics go, we are going to answer some questions from yesterday, a couple ones that came up that was not here before. So one question that came up was, what do I do if my laptop seems really slow? I'm at home and it's not running very fast. What is it? Couple different things. There's a lot of variables. It's not just a simple thing like my computer's slow. It could be that, but there are a lot of different components of that make that happen. One is absolutely your internet speed. That is a factor. So if you're ever not sure what your internet speed is, you can go to speed test. If you just Google speed test, it actually will pop up in your browser window right there, and it'll do a quick speed test for you, and it will tell you. And it also gives you like a range of what that means. So it won't just say, hey, you got good speed or bad speed or whatever. It will tell you what you can typically do. So one thing that's the first step I would check that out. Realizing too that if you have multiple devices on your coverage on your your Wi-Fi, say at home, that makes a factor too. You want to think of it basically as a hose. Think about like a garden hose. The pipe is so big, as water is going through it, eventually there's only so much water that can go through. So even if you have the fastest computer in the world, if your limitation is your speed from your internet provider, that's the factor. Now, another reality too is distance from your Wi-Fi. If you have a Wi-Fi router, set up in your house, and you are at one end of the house, and the router is at the other end of the house, and there's other things in between there, all those are factors. So maybe you have other walls in between, or maybe there's metal of some kind, or different things like that. They do have extenders that you can buy, and so if it's something you're trying to get more internet around your house to make it better, there's a couple different options there. What I would typically do when I look for hardware like that, computer hardware, the first website that I check to look for to kind of compare, it's a great website called The Wirecutter, WIRECUTTER. And what that does is that website will basically do all kinds of comparisons shopping for you, and then it will show you the different recommendations they make. So things like if I was looking for a new router for my house, or if I was looking for an extender for my house, that's what I would use. I would go to that website to help show all the different options, and then they'll give you different price ranges, like the highest level one, kind of a medium one, and then a lower one, depending on what you want to spend. Let's see here. I'm not sure about the lag. I don't have much that's running right now. Let's try to do this. See if this helps. All right, let's try that. Okay, so we're also going to talk about, so that's speed width. Okay, so after the internet speed is a big factor of that. Like I said, you can do a speed test that will test that out, and coverage, how far you are away from Wi-Fi. Other factors are things like how many tabs you have open. I don't know why I'm being super laggy here. It does seem like I'm being laggy. Let me try this. Let's see if that's any better. I'm not sure if that's any better or not. All right. So the other thing that we can do besides just the internet speed is the number of tabs on your computer. So if you open up a browser like Chrome and you have 50 different tabs or even 20 different tabs or whatever, each one of those tabs is like running an instance of Chrome. So if the more you have and you just let them sit there, the more resources it uses. And so that can slow you down too. Every once in a while, it's worth signing out of everything, like basically closing down Chrome, restarting your computer. I typically do that every couple days, but whatever makes sense for you. I just wouldn't wait forever to do that. I know my wife, I kind of tease her phone, she has an iPhone, and she won't restart that for ever. She'll never restart it until finally she'll come to me and say, it's really running slow. What's the matter? And I'll just shut it all down, start up again, give it a second, and it's kind of back to what it was. That's your first, line of defense to try to trick that out. Again, that's not going to solve everything, but it doesn't hurt to do that. And then the final thing is it could be your computer as well. That's a possibility. But usually it's things like, your internet speed and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of factors, even right now, from my, the number of different factors from this video stream that I'm streaming to you and you getting it at the other end. There's my internet speed, there's your internet speed, there's all the other stuff going. You may have noticed, I don't know, but now because everybody's at home, a lot of people are, using internet like they never have before, as far as they're relying on, video conferencing or things like this during the day. So the networks themselves are seeing more coverage and more, spikes as far as usage than ever before. So that's a factor too. So all these things kind of add up. And again, it can be your computer, but that's usually the last step of that chain of what things it could possibly be. All right, so another question. Let's see here. Recording. Oh, so this came up. So this is a question from Casey, and this was a question she collected from another couple different teachers. Basically, the idea was about virtual classroom management. And so what that means is like, just like you guys, they're doing, close that. They are doing video calls just like this, for classroom, say middle school, a bunch of kids in there, and they wanted to show the screen, but also be able to watch the screen at the same time to see what kids are doing and so forth. I would say you got to think about that. So as problematic as it is in a physical classroom to watch everybody at once and you do your best and really you walk the room and you're there and you're present whenever. If students are you trying to manage that 100%, it's going to be really difficult to do because again, high school level especially, you could have 30 kids in a single class and they're all on there, and it's really difficult to kind of look and see what everybody's doing. And even if you see them, to be able to kind of call them on it. I mean, it's a difficult thing. So this is a learning curve, obviously, for the kids, just like it is for us. But I would say if you have a student that's particularly problematic, one student that really is being inappropriate or doing things like that, you can remove them, you can mute them, and you can remove them. And if it goes beyond that, where they still have real issues, I would reach out to them directly, like before or after the class, and say, look, what's going on? We gotta fix this, because this is just like you would do in a regular classroom. You wouldn't just kind of ignore them, you would take care of the problem. And so I would recommend doing that. It is a different skill set, obviously, learning how to kind of troubleshoot and try to figure out make classroom management totally virtually. One thing that we're realizing, and we kind of knew this, those of us that are in K-12 education, but the rest of the world is realizing, is you can't just put a camera on a bunch of kids and say, okay, now we're doing class. Like this is what virtual class is. There's got to be more to it than that. And so that's what we're learning, and some of the tools, and they're getting better. One thing that's come out, I think I mentioned this last week, but I'll mention it again. Google has announced that for Google Meet, they're going to want to give you the ability to remove accounts, which you can do that now. Also, you as the host, you can't be removed. So if you start the Hangout, kids can't remove you. But they're working on right now, and they've released it. It just is rolling out in the next 3 weeks. So we may not have it yet, where when you shut down the Hangout, it shuts it down for them as well. And I know that's a concern and that's an issue, and they've published on their blog that they are offering that. Our domain, our district just may not have received that feature yet. They said up to 3 weeks. So hopefully between now and hopefully before then, we'll receive that feature. So hopefully that will address that. All right, and as I mentioned yesterday too, if you I am going to upload yesterday's and the day before's videos. They were giving me a little glitch uploading them, but if you haven't seen them there yet, I will do so as well as today's. And finally, one other last question that came on here was looking for extra help. If you want kind of individual help, it would be really difficult right now to do one-on-one, PD. For us to have time, the tech department, there's a handful of us to run around and have, one person to show something, just because of the time, just the amount of time that we have. That said, a couple things that, obviously, somebody asked me a question. If it's something we covered, that's one of the reasons why we're doing this live PD. So hopefully there's topics every day, and I'm receiving emails pretty much every day from people saying, oh, tell me about Google Classroom, and I might refer to them to that video that we did on Google Classroom. So that's useful. And if you jump back and you watch that, and you still have questions, of course, throw them in here, and we'll keep answering them as we go forward. But that gives us a place to start. So we're not all kind of restarting all over the place. The other thing, I think I mentioned this yesterday, is I do have students from our class, my broadcasting class, the high school, that we're working with, that are starting to they're going to help us with PD basically. So we have some students that are going to be able to work with teachers to help them learn how to do certain things. I've just reached out to them. We've just had those conversations, so I don't have anybody yet. But eventually I could see a time when we have students creating little tutorial videos, or maybe working with you one-on-one, or whatever it is, to help individual teachers. The only thing I would say to that is really take the time first is to go do a little bit of research on your own. So if you go look for whatever that question is that you email, Google it first. So that the same question in Google and see what happens. If nothing comes up, then so be it. But if something comes up, kind of do a little bit of research, and then we'll go from there and be able to build from that part. All right. So I think that's the questions from yesterday. I'm going to check the chat room right now. That looks good. Okay. So let's talk about today's topic. So what we're going to do today is talk about digitizing non-digital work. Now, we talked about this a little bit last week, and I'll have the link in there. I can't remember exactly which date it is. Actually, I can tell you. I think it was the 19th. Nope, I'm wrong. It's the 20th. So 3/20, if you want to go, we started this conversation, but I'm going to add a little bit more to this. So if you are a teacher, and there's two elements here. You're trying to take something that is already non-digital and digitize it on the computer, or you're trying to take something that is non-digital and really just take a video or a picture of that. And it just depends on which thing you're trying to do. So we're going to show both. I'm going to start with one question that came up was about math. And how would I show the process of doing math, let's say I'm doing a problem kind of by hand on a computer, what would I do? And so let me start by doing a screen share. Okay. So this is back to our user we've talked about before, Stuart Dent. He's here. This is his account. Okay, so what would I do if I'm going to start? There's a program that's connected with your Google account called Jamboard. Now, Jamboard, Jamboard, is a physical device, a physical board, which you can buy and order or whatever, and it's kind of expensive and whatever. I don't care about the actual device itself. I just care about the actual software running it, and that is free. So if I scroll down a little bit, I'll see right here, Jamboard for Google Chrome. And I think most of us already have that installed on Chrome. If you go to Chrome and you install, if you click to install, it's already been installed. It's been pushed. So you can look at that. But what Jamboard does, what the program does, what the software does, is allow you to kind of have like a whiteboard on your computer. So if I look at it right now, I can go to jamboard.google.com. And here is my, empty version of this, recent jams. I can click on this little plus over here in the lower right-hand corner. And I have an Untitled Jamboard. Now, this is kind of like a whiteboard, a digital whiteboard. And the idea is that I could use a pencil here. I could, let me make it a little bit smaller. Let's make it smaller, and we'll use blue. Now, it's difficult, obviously, to draw with a touchpad or a mouse. It's not great. So if that's an issue, if you have one of the Chromebooks, most of our middle school and on Chromebooks are also touch screens. So you certainly could use your finger or a stylus. If you get a stylus, you can get them really cheap. They don't have to be active styluses, as they call them. They can be passive styluses. So you can get them very inexpensively. Or some pens now, with their erasers or whatever, will have styluses with them. So I can draw, or I can write, something on here. I can erase it, obviously. if I were to come in here, I can insert text. Okay, so I could say to the students, hey, check this out. And we could, have a word problem on there. If I wanted to show my students how I'm doing this, let me erase this. Let me clear frame again here for a second. So I just wiped it out. If I wanted to show them, what I would do first is I would actually pull up Screencastify, hit record, and then I would go through the process of, like, again, this, I'm using a mouse right now, which is really not great. But if I would do this with, if I had a touch screen, the computer I'm on right now to record doesn't have a touch screen with it, so it's not a good one. But if I wanted to use this to record myself doing problems, you could do that. And you could have a little recording of video when you're all done. I can also add images. If I wanted to add an image built right inside of here, I can do image search. So we'll do plus. Well, maybe I want to add this one instead of my hand-drawn one. This might be a little bit better over here. You get the idea. So when this is done, I can also change the background a little bit. And why would I want to do that? If you click on background, I can give myself lines to write on, or I can give myself a grid or dots. Again, depending on what my needs are, that might be useful when I'm showing this. When I'm done, I can click up here. I can download it as a PDF if I want. And again, we talked about this the other day, where PDFs, a student could look at a PDF and edit on top of them if I want to do it that way. I could also save it as a single image, so just a graphic. Maybe I want to upload this to my Google Classroom, so I want to make a graphic this way and draw it and so forth. I can make a copy here, remove. I can also share it directly. So if I click share, this is going to work just like it would for any other Google Doc. So if you send this to me, I could click on it. I could open up on a Jamboard. You can have multiple people editing it if you want to open that up. It's a pretty good tool. The biggest limitation, I think, is just literally how you're going to use it, as far as what way you're going to kind of draw on it or run it on it that way. And that really depends on what you have for device. If I open this up with a tablet or maybe my phone, I can use my finger and that touchscreen. Or if I have a touchscreen laptop, that might work. So it just really depends on what makes most sense for you to do it that way, to write it and save it. These are all saved. I'm going to call this one, we'll call this a sample jam. And so if I go back to Jamboard here now to my home page, so jamboard.google.com, you notice here it is. This is the one now that I've got saved. I can download a PDF. I can share it with people, just like all the same kind of stuff we've done before, if I look at it in a different view. And also I could link to it directly. Okay, so that is one way. There's other tools out there, but what I like about Jamboard is that it's free, obviously. It's already connected with our Google accounts. It's already stored there. It's built right in. So that's one of the benefits of that. All right, the other tool I'm going to use, I don't know if I have this, I don't have this up right now. So the other tool we're going to use, so let's say I want to record, I have a document. Let me jump back over here for 1 second to my stop presenting. Okay, so one of the assignments that one of my teachers in this district, my school, my boys go to, one of their list of assignments was to create a quiz to give to your parents. So my lovely son created me this math quiz, and I did very poorly on it, by the way. He wasn't a very easy grader. I didn't do very well. So, but he created this quiz for me, and then he wanted to print it out and have me do it, which I did. And I have it here somewhere. Let's see. Here's my grade. I didn't do very well. I think I got a B- on it. So he wasn't very happy with some of my answers. But regardless, I did show my work. But what if I have a document like this that I've written out? It can be typed or it can be handwritten, or maybe it's a worksheet that you've already created or whatever, and I want to digitize this. Of course, I could take a picture right now in my webcam and do it that way. I mean, I could do that. That's okay. That's not at the end of the world. You can do it that way. It's not great because it's still kind of fuzzy and hard to read some of the things. But I'm going to show you another method that's kind of the same but a little bit better. So many of us, if you have a smartphone of any kind, Android or Apple or iOS or whatever, it doesn't matter. And what this one is this is a tool called Photoscan. Okay? So I'm just going to use my phone right here. And the file, the application is called Photoscan. So Photoscan. It's free. It will connect to your Google account. And the reason why that's useful is once you've taken that picture, it will automatically upload it directly to your Google Drive or your Google Photos, depending on what you have it set up. It was designed for, and it works well for, physical photos. So if you have like a photo album and you want to take these photos and basically scan them and put them, digitize them, the old way of doing a scanner, you can still do it that way. The drawback of the physical scanner that we used to use was it just takes so long. Like every scan is like a minute or two. With this, and our cameras now on our newer modern smartphones are so good that we can click, click, click and take a picture of it, and it's not too bad. The problem is if I took a single picture of an image like this, of an iPhone, if I took a single picture, the drawback of that is you might have glare, the quality's not the best. What Photoscan does is it actually has you hold it up high enough, take a single picture of the entire thing, and then you take a picture of the, and then it will take like 4 pictures, 1 on each corner. And when you do that, it will actually stitch them together and make the best quality version as you can. So I want to show you how this works. I'm actually, as I mentioned, I was going to switch to cameras. Let's see if this can work so that you can see. All right, let's see if that works. This is my mobile camera. It's a little bit choppy, but I think it'll be okay for what we're trying to do here. So I've got my document here that I want to take a picture of. And I've got my Photoscan, my program. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to back it up high enough so I see the entire document at once. And when I snap that, it gives me this circle in the middle. And notice it gives me these 4 little dots. And what it's saying is you're going to go to each corner. Okay, so let's try that again. I moved this picture. Okay, now I'm going to go to the corner like this. You'll see a little circle will kind of fill around the edge. Now I'll go to the right. It will kind of walk me through the process. Now I'll go down. So it's actually taking 4 little pictures, 1 of each corner, and it's putting them all together. And when I'm done, this, it will create a little document for me, all done. It's already, I know it's really hard to see that in the on the screen, but I'll switch over and you'll be able to see it a little bit better. All right, let's try that. So what it does is it automatically reads the edges of the page, so it knows where it is, so it doesn't give you the stuff around it. You don't have to crop it that way. It also will automatically take those 4 pictures and make 1 nice big picture out of it. So here's my image, and when I'm done with it, I can say, what do I want to do with it? If I wait for a minute or 2, it will automatically be uploaded to my Google Photos, like just by default. If I want to send it directly right from here, I can do that. I'm going to show you what it looks like from our end. So I took a picture, I'll wait a minute, and then it will just appear. If I go back to present here, okay, so this is the program. It is for mobile only. This doesn't work on your Chromebook or your laptop. This just works on a mobile device. And honestly, most of the better phones, the newer phones, an iPhone or an Android phone, the cameras are good enough on them to take those photos and do a good job of them. So if I go to what it would look like from this end, let me go to my photos here. So this is that picture that we just took. It took a minute, but this came up, and here is that document. So here it is. It's in as an image. I'm in my Google Photos now. Now, we covered Google Photos also on the 19th. So if you want to go back and see a little bit more about photos, I'll show you a couple things in here you can do. But here it is. This looks pretty good. If I want to edit it a little bit, I can click on this little crop tool up in the upper right. It looks like a little bunch of sliders there. Click on that. Okay, so the first thing I can do, if I click on the upper right here as well, this will turn them. If it was turned, when I first got this image, it was upside down like this. So I just came in here, click rotate. So here they are. That looks pretty good. And so if it's not, if I need to rotate a different way, I can do that. Click done. If I did need to crop it, let's say it wasn't quite right, I could always grab these edges and I could crop around it just like that. And I'd hit done, and it will kind of cut the edges off. And then if I want to get a little bit more, probably I'm not going to change like some of these effects, but I might want to change the contrast a little bit. What that will mean is that it will make the whites lighter and the darks darker. So if you notice here, if I go up a little higher contrast, it'll just make it a little bit darker here because this is just black and white, so that helps a little bit. Anytime if I want to see what it looked like before, I can just click on it and it will show it. Click done. And there it is. Now, this is a document. This is a, excuse me, this is a image. This is not a document. So if I want to insert that into a Google Doc for some students to use into my classroom, what I would do is go create a new Google Doc. So I'll create, I'm in my Drive right now. I just clicked on the grid up in the upper right and went to Drive. A new Google Doc. Click Insert, Image from my photos here. So this is my Google Photos. And it should be my most recent one. There it is right there. Click on that. And I can insert it. Now, the drawback of this right now is this is just an image. So students aren't going to be able to type on top of that or write or anything like that. It's just a picture of this. So I may want to use a different tool. Again, we talked about, I think it was yesterday, the day before, about PDFs. If you want to insert that as a PDF and have students write on it, that's an option. The other thing you can do is I can insert a new Google slide. So here's my Google slide. And we've done this a couple times. I'm going to highlight this text here to get rid of these boxes. I'm going to turn this Google slide so it's vertical, not horizontal. To do that, I'll go File, scroll down a little bit, Page Setup. Right now it's widescreen, so it's 16 by 9. I'm going to change that to Custom, and we'll change that to 8.5 by 11 inches. So basically the size of a regular piece of paper, 8.5 by 11. And now if I do that same process where if I click Insert, Image, Photos, I can find my photo, I can insert it, and again, it's okay, but it's still problematic. And the reason why I say that is if a student wants to type, they can put a text box on top of it, and they could type their answer in here, but they could also accidentally move this, right? It's not locked down in that sense. It's still kind of movable. So what I would do for that, let me clean this all back up again, to go back to where it was, to nothing. There we go. If I want to put it on this page and let them type on top of it, but not move it, I would go into View Master. And now if I go to this top list, I'm going to delete these extra icons that come with it here, these extra boxes. But now if I insert that same image from Photos, there it is. And I might even say, I'm going to drag it over here. So I'm going to fill the entire page, even though it's going to distort it a little bit. But there's the entire page in my master slide. That looks good. I'm going to exit that out. Now students can type on top of it. Notice how I can't drag it. I'm going to make it a little bigger here. I can't do anything. You could even put in boxes if you want to for them to type their answers in. Okay, so they can type these in. Now, again, they can move these boxes around, so it's not perfect, but at least it gives them a place to start from. Okay, I want to type these things in. They can draw a little bit. If they want a scratch pad here, they can use the scribble tool. It does work. It just is a little bit, again, it depends on what they're using for scribble tool. Depends on what they're using for their work. Another option you could do is say, look, I want you to just handwrite your work. You can handwrite your problems and then just take a picture of it and put it here. If they want to take a picture of their own handwork, let me grab my assignment here that I did for my son's work. If I click, this is from a student's perspective, if I click Insert Image from Camera, they could have their own work here. Here's my work that I did for that problem. I think I did okay. Take a picture of it, insert it, and now they could show their handwork that they did to hand it into you. They just clicked Insert Image from Camera. Any of you that have students that are at least 6th grade and up, they have done that. They've done that for me, for classes that I've done with them, or they've done it with Mr. Kelly. 5th grade and down, I don't know. Some students may have done it with me, or I know last year we did that with some of the students in some of the 4th grades around the district, but I can't say every student got a chance to do that. But I know from 6th grade on in the district that they have. They've all done that process. So they've taken a picture of something, and then they put that into a Google slide. So that's one way that you can have them work on something and take a recording or take a snapshot of it, put it there, and you can see the work back and forth. This assignment right here, if I want to assign this into Google Classroom, let me get rid of these answers here that the student did. Again, I would go to my classroom, so I could go to the grid in the upper right. Let's title this presentation before we do that. I'm going to call this math exam. All right, so that's my math exam. I'm going to go to the grid in the upper right, go down to classroom. I do want to make sure that I have answer boxes here. And I'll even, for these answer boxes, so I just have it all. What I did here is I just grabbed this little T with a box around it. I put the box in the area that I want it. And then you may want to put even, if I click on this little icon right here, I'll put a border around that. See, it's black here. And that's just to show the students, where they're going to type into. I can make it like dashed or something like that. You don't have to do that, but that gives them like something to look for. Oh, okay, this is where my answer is going to go. In fact, you can even make it, let's make it blue so it really sticks out. Make it a little thicker. There we go. And then I could take that and I could make a couple versions of those to put. If I could grab it here. There we go. To put at different places. So each of those would have a box that students would be able to write stuff in. Okay. So now in my classroom, I'm going to do this for, I will do this for the English one, even though it's not an English problem. I'm going to go to my classroom I want, go to classwork. I'm going to create a new assignment. I'm going to call this one math exam. I want to make sure, I'm going to give it a due date. We'll give it a due date of tomorrow. And I want to make sure I put it in a topic. So we're going to call this under home learning. The topics are really helpful for students to be able to find stuff later on. That looks good. I need to add my document to it. So I'm going to go to my Google Drive. Click Add, Google Drive. Here is that math exam I just mentioned. Click Add. This is important right here. If I leave this as students can view file, okay, that means they can just see it. They can't do anything with it. They can just look at it. If I change it to edit file, that means that all the students in the classroom can edit that one file. So most likely I'm not going to do that. This is what 90% of the time you're probably going to do. Make a copy for each student and it will go to all of them. So everyone get their own copy. Click Assign. Give it a second here. Once it's done, they will receive a message that says, hey, where is it here? Let's go under home learning. There it is. So they were seeing this right here. Hey, you have a math exam. Click on that. And as they do it, as they complete it and hit submit or hit turn it in, you'll notice over here which ones have been turned in. One thing that I got a question about from somebody this morning, I apologize, I can't remember who asked it, but was students, or no, I remember now, it's Miss Daly. Students are also getting a lot of Google Classroom in their email, right? So in their email, they're getting the same thing that we were getting as all those notifications. So if students haven't gone into their Gmail and turned on inbox, you're going to want to recommend that they do that as well. Because they're purely virtual now, it's going to be really difficult for them to find things. It's going to be so overwhelming. They're going to get too overwhelmed with all this stuff. So what to make sure that you're mentioning to students to do is go to their Gmail. Again, I'll go back to Google right here. Click on the grid, go to Gmail. In here, notice how I have these tabs. By default, students won't have that. There's no way that I know of that we as an administration technology, we can't push that out to force them. Every student can kind of set up their Gmail kind of how they want. But what they need to do is in the upper right here on this gear, click on that and go to Configure Inbox. And then select those and click Save. So if they haven't done that yet, because you notice right now, I'm in my inbox, it looks pretty empty. But over here under Updates, I've got 3 new. Well, these are all things to do with shared or with Google Classroom, whatever. If I didn't have this as a separate tab here, everything would be my primary and get really overwhelming. So it's really worthwhile for kids to do that, to click on that gear and go to Configure Inbox and click Save. It just makes life so much easier. All right. So that's a couple methods to digitize non-digital work. The other one that I'll just throw out there, I'm not going to cover it right now because we've done it so much, but again, is that screen recording. So you can use Screencastify, and you can record yourself either with video or just the screen itself. And when you're done, you have a video to share with other students. You can also use that for audio. If you just want to do an audio recording, and just have the video off, that's still worthwhile because kids can listen to it. I know a couple teachers want to do, like a music teacher want to do something just recording with audio. Absolutely. Even though it is technically a video, you don't have to show anything. That still makes it easier for them to manage. Then that brings me to two other updates I want to make sure I recommend to people. One was that the Hangout grid view. So a couple of people have been asking about that. And if you haven't installed this yet or know about it, please share it with people, share it with friends. If you Google Meet Grid View, it'll be that top link, and you can just click on that, and it's an extension. I did add it to today's show notes. But all that is so that you can see everybody in your Hangout, your call at once. Basically, all these little, like a Brady Bunch kind of video thing. And so that's a super easy one. I know people are looking for that. If you Google Meet Grid View, you can find that. It'll be the top link, and you can go from there. And then the last one I'm going to share is WeVideo. Now, we just talked about it yesterday really briefly. The reason why I want to share that, what about WeVideo, is when you get to the point where you're recording video and you do want to do more editing than just is built into Screencastify editing. So when I record a video, I'm done. Here it is. It's in my Google Drive. Screencastify can edit it very simply. You can do a couple little trims or little cuts and that kind of stuff. And that might be enough, and you're fine. You're done. But if you want to do anything more than that, anything more advanced, I would go to WeVideo, W-E-V-I-D-E-O. Let me throw that. Somebody's asking about the spelling. And so now we have a site license for the district now. They give it away for free. If you are the district, if you don't have one, you can request one from the company, and they're giving them out for free, I believe, right now. So I would definitely recommend that. It's a higher level of complexity. It's more details, more stuff, but also makes it, you can do more things with it. So it's kind of a trade-off. The biggest limitation I've seen with it, the biggest issue, has been the fact that it's very, when you first upload a video to it, it takes a while. Because if you think about it, videos are really big size-wise. So it takes a while for that initial upload to happen. Then it's not too bad. But that's just a time for that. Let's check through here. Somebody asked, does Photoscan have a limit to a number of scans? No, not that I've ever seen. I've done tons. So I don't think there's any limit to it. It just makes it really easy if you have a bunch of non-digital work to just click, scan through, scan through, scan through. It's pretty slick, actually. It will come down to the quality of your camera, and depending on your phone, if your phone is within the last few years, let's say at least 3 years or newer, maybe even 4 years or newer, it will be fine. Just because the phones of the last few years are good enough to be able to handle that quality of resolution. Somebody asked, you scan a worksheet. So yes, like you could do the process where you could put it in a Jamboard. You could have that worksheet, use Photoscan to scan it, have it as an image. Back in Jamboard, let me just show you real quickly here. So I'm going to do a screen share. So I'm back in my Jamboard. Let's say I want to take the one I was working on earlier, and I want to add an image to it right in here. So I wanted to put that document we took a photo of. Over on the left side here, there's a little add image icon. Click on that. I can go to my Google Photos. So here's the one we just played with, we just took. Okay, I want to add that photo into my Jamboard here. Here it is. And again, I can resize it and play with, what, that's probably not what I want to do. A little bigger that way. There we go. So even if I wanted to just do a section of it, I can make it big enough to do one problem here. By the way, this was one of my problems. This big long number, it's like a 20-digit number to the 7th power. My 6th grader wanted me to do that for an assignment. I got that one wrong, by the way, if anyone's wondering. I kind of gave up on that one. So anyway. And then I could, if I want to show them how to use it, I could, let me move this over again. I could write right on top of this. Let me use my mouse here. I don't know. There's a 20-digit number to the 7th power. Come on. He just learned about exponents, so he was pretty excited. Anyway, but that is my Jamboard, and that's just an image that they now can use, and I can share that as well, and so forth. And again, you can have 2 students in here, or 2 people. I can share this Jamboard, and both people can be working on it live. The only drawback I think of Jamboard is, again, is just the physical difficulty of using a touchpad to do it. You can do it, it's just kind of tricky. Versus, again, if you have a stylus, and those are pretty inexpensive now. They can get them at I know it's hard to get stuff now, but if you order them from Amazon for like $5 or under, they're just like a little stylus that you can use to write on a touchscreen with. All right, so one other question came up. When you put an assignment into Google Classroom, do you need to put one for each student? No, as long as you make sure when you add that assignment, you choose that pull down that says, what do the students see? Do they just watch the same assignment? Are they all able to edit that one assignment, or do you make a copy for each student? And that's what you want to do. You want to make a copy for each student. So they will each receive their own copy of that assignment. They'll fill it out, work on it. The button at the top that normally says share, for them it will say turn in. When they're done, they'll click turn in, and you will see the results of all that. If you hadn't had a chance to, if you go back to our shows, and I think we did it on the, let me double check here, the 18th. I think our first show. Yes. If you want to look at that process, we covered that in the 18th. So the very first one on that, rshu19.info, if you scroll down and see the link, that was the steps on how to go through the whole thing with Google Classroom, how you set it up, how you share a document with students, how you collect them back. That whole process, the whole back and forth is in there, and that will certainly be helpful. All right, and I think with that we've covered, we've done quite a few tools today. That's really good. Just going to give you a heads up as far as what we're going to do tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to cover Google Forms. Now, Google Forms and Google Sheets are kind of connected, so we'll end up doing a little bit of Google Sheets too. But the reason why we're doing Forms right now specifically is if you're asking students to fill out like quizzes or that kind of stuff and you want to build those, that's the way to do it. Using Google Forms to be able to record and see the answers and all that kind of stuff. That will be the topic for that. We'll go through creating them from scratch. How do you make a self-correcting quiz right in Google Forms? How do you add different topics to it? How do you add images and pictures and video and all the different things you might want to do in a Google Form? We will cover that tomorrow. So with that, please don't forget, if you haven't done so already, if you have a Google Classroom, share it with classroom.google.com, classroom@rshu19.net, so we can have access to it. And if you have, awesome, thank you. And if you haven't done attendance as well, make sure you do that. And I think with that, I think we had one more question. I'll check real quickly, and then we will call it a day. Is it possible to transfer a Google Doc into a form? Yes. Again, there's a couple different ways to do that, and so we will cover that tomorrow. Google Forms now has the ability to have a bank of questions that you can pull from. So if you have a bunch of questions, you want to pull like certain ones out, you can do that. You could have that in a Google Doc. You could also take a Google Doc, download it as an image, and then put that into a Google Form if you want to that way. So there's a couple different options there. We will cover those tomorrow. So with that, thank you guys. Have a terrific Thursday, and I will see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock.